one, go. Okay. Good evening, Nabil. I'm so much thrilled and excited to have you on this episode of um, International Student Office Hour. We're so much excited to have you. We appreciate your time and your willingness to be able to share your experience, your story, and your journey so far with the aspiring graduate student out there. This is going to be third episode, and we're so much excited about it. We've had two episodes previously, and we've been getting some positive feedbacks, especially two people who are coming into grad school in the US. One person is partially funded, while the other person is fully funded for grad school. So our aim in this series is to be able to talk to people like you who have been in their shoes before, like aspiring graduate students out there, people who want to explore other countries, people who want to explore graduate school in foreign countries. So we want to be able to tell our own stories, how we were able to overcome some of the challenges, admission requirements. So we want to be able to share this information with them so that they can be handy for them when making decisions. So basically, that's what the aim and the objective of this series it's all about. And I'm so excited that I'm able to meet a great person like you who is willing to also share their story. So Nabil, welcome to this episode. For the purpose of our people that will be watching this episode, I would love for you to quickly introduce yourself, your name, your country where you came from, where you are currently at, like the program you're studying, and at what level. So just give us a very brief background about yourself so that people get to know who they're about to watch. Thank you.
Okay, good evening to you too, Busayo, my friend. And first of all, thank you for inviting me to this series as a guest. And I feel absolutely privileged for this. And hi everyone. I am Nabil Hassan, and I'm currently a graduate student at the Computer Science Department at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And I'm from Bangladesh, a small South Asian country. So me and my friend Busa, we are here to talk about the graduate studies here, what it's like, and the graduate life in here, so that you can have information that will help in your future endeavor of education.
Uh, Thank you. That was a bomb. I mean, you've set the ball rolling. I'll quickly love to know what your journey is like. And this is what I'm talking about. In my country, Nigeria, where I came from, we have elementary education. After that, we go to, basically we call it primary school. So then after which we go to secondary, which they call high school here in the US term. Then after which we go to university or polytechnic, we call it higher institution, as they call it college here. So then after that, maybe you do your first degree, you can decide to go back for master's. After master's, you can decide to go back for a PhD. That's usually what the progression is like. So I want to know a little bit into your own country. So what is the progression like? So your educational level, how do you go about it? Is it similar to what we have here or what we have in my country?
Yeah, it's I think it's pretty similar to the system you have in Nigeria. And in my country, if I consider from grade one, then from grade one to grade five, it's secondary education. I mean primary education in my country, and then grade 6 to 10, it's secondary education. And then I think it is where it gets a little different from Nigeria or here in the United States. After grade 10 in my country, we call it grade 11 and 12 college. So I think that's the different part in there. And then after 12th grade, you can go to the university, which is usually 4 years long. and then you can go for that's the undergraduate level or bachelor's, and then after that you can go for master's, PhDs, postdocs, and all. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Another question I have for you now is this. We are getting there a little bit. Um, if anybody goes to school, especially when you go to college, as they made us to believe, one of the reasons is you want to finish and you want to get job. So you want to be able to work. I mean, and when you have a job and maybe the job is paying you quite handsomely well, you want to settle down. When I finished my home college some couple of years ago, I was also in the job market and I was working, but something that I can consider like life's purpose kept driving me, and I knew I needed to do something much more greater than what I was doing. And it was one of the reasons I decided to opt for graduate school. Like I needed to have one or two skills I believed I was going to get in grad school that's going to put me in a better position for things I have planned for my life. And that's why I'm here. So I want to know, I know you are a software developer, a great one.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and I was like, I want to be like this person, you know? So you finished your college, if I'm going to say it that way, and you had a job as a software developer. I would love for you to tell me briefly about the software development job you were doing. Then we're going to transition into at what point did you now realize or then realize that you had to go for a graduate degree program. So if you'll be able to tell me that progression, you having a job, then deciding that you needed to go on to a grad school. So what was the motivation for you and what was it like for you? Thank you.
Okay, so for me, the things are a little different, I think, because I'm like jack of all trades and master of none, and my interest levels always interests are always changing. So I think that's not a very good thing. I actually started studying electrical and electronic engineering because from a very early age I got attracted to the electronic devices. So I always wanted to know how those devices work. But I mean that was the reason I opted for electrical and electronic engineering. But then comes the amazing device computers. So I then wanted to know this device is amazing, and I grew a passion for programming. So I actually had my undergrad in electrical and electronic engineering, and then since I pretty soon grew my interest in computer and software developments and programming, I tried to get a job as software developer, and I was able to do that. And then when I was working as a software developer, I think I'm missing something. I didn't know the algorithms and programming pretty well. So I think, although I'm always very quick to pick up things, but it was not. Um, I think I was missing something. I didn't know those algorithms like sorting, searching,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and those things. So at that time, I thought it's time for me to go get my master's in computer science. So that's the time that motivated me to get my master's in computer science. Yeah.
Awesome. I've always been looking at how come we have this striking chord because, you know, we connect very well. Now I see that we actually have a lot of things in common because
Oh yeah. I thought it was that you also had your undergrad in
electrical, yeah.
electrical and
Yeah,
electronic engineering. Yeah.
yeah,
Electrical engineering, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, electrical and electronic
Yeah.
engineering. But for me,
So can you please tell me a little? I just told you my story. So can you please tell me your story? What motivated you actually to have your master's in computer science?
okay, I mean, it was part of what I said before I asked you the question, but I'm going to go over it again since you put the question back to me. You see, when I finished college, I
Mhm.
was also in the job market, like I said, and I
Mhm.
worked for about 7 years. But
Okay.
for me, it was more of like an entrepreneurial drive. So
Okay.
I'd always wanted to create things. It was one of the things that led me into choosing electrical and electronic engineering in the first place. But you see, a lot of things are changing, and they are changing very rapidly. So I'd always wanted to create things, like write my own codes, like just write small codes that can automate things. I've always wanted to be like in control of whatever I do, not dependent on someone helping me do something, because I realized that most times, if you have an idea and you're banking on someone to really execute that idea for you, I mean, it's really going to be on a long thing. You're at the mercy of the person. So, and this is me, that I'm always coming up with ideas every now and then. So I figure out, if I really need to do this thing on my own, I needed to add to my skills. I mean, you can talk about a lot of online platforms, but I just wanted to have some time dedicated for this thing. I really wanted to pursue it, and that's why I opted for masters in computer science, being able to learn the fundamentals, being able to learn and um, being in the group of people who are also doing the same thing. And you can see how it is playing out now. I know you. I know quite a lot of other great guys, like Roderick, like Damilola, like Tolu. You see, like Sha, talk about them. You see what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? So these are people whom we now come together to encourage each other, to learn from them, and to pitch my ideas to some of them. And we come together, we collaborate, and we are creating things. You see, so that is one of the things that actually drove me into starting my master's in computer science. So I want to be able to create things on my own, being able to make impact. Yeah. So thank you for putting that question back to me. Yeah, I really appreciate it. So
Thank you too for sharing it with all of us. So thank you.
yeah, absolutely. When you decided that, okay, it was time for you to go to grad school, I mean, like the adage would go, there are so many fishes in the ocean. So what I'm trying to say is, there are so many grad schools, there are so many countries. Your country is probably like one of your first options. Then, of course, the US is there, India is there. I mean, um, Canada is there, Australia is there. So, what was one thing that actually attracted you to the US? And I'm asking this because of our viewers, people who will be watching this video. So a lot of people get confused where to go. Am I supposed to go to Australia? Am I supposed to go to China? I mean, when you are in that shoe, it becomes a dilemma. Like, you begin to think and begin to ask a lot of questions. Where do I go? I need to weigh my opportunities. So for you, what was it like? What were your options, and how did you narrow it down to choosing the United States of America?
Okay, so the thing is, when I was planning for higher education, I tried to consider a country that speaks English. For example, English is the first language for that country. So that because in my country we usually study English from very early grades. So but still, we are not very skilled in speaking or using English. So it's if I opt for a country that doesn't speak English or English is not their first language, then it would be very difficult for me because first I would have I would need to learn the language very well so that I can study in their language the materials I need to pick up. So I didn't want to go for a country which doesn't speak English. So that was the primary reason for me to choose United States over the other countries. And the second reason is that the American degree is recognized recognized all over the world. So if for example, if you have if there is two if there are two candidates one having a degree from European countries or from Australia, then and also, or I think, and let's consider another student who has a degree from the United States. And I think the candidate from the United States will always get the preference because this degree is highly preferable all over the world. So that was the two main reasons for me to choose the United States over other countries.
Okay, sounds good. But education here is not a joke.
Yeah, yeah, that's really true. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but we will get to that part later. So
yeah.
when you narrowed your choice of countries down to the US, was it only US or did you have like a plan B? Canada also speaks English. I mean, people in Canada, they speak English. I mean, England, the UK, they speak English. Australia too, they speak English. So was it
Yeah.
only the US you had to narrow it down to, or did you have like other options?
Yeah, it was specifically the US because I don't like to try many things at the same time. So if I fix my goal personally, uh, this is my personal style because if I fix my goal, then it's always easier for me to achieve that goal, no matter how long it takes. So yeah, it was only one country for my case. Yeah.
So you are the type that will put all your eggs in one basket. You're so sure
Yeah,
that, man,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to smash it. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Maybe I'm learning from that because most of us will probably always want to have a plan to fall back on. But I mean, it all boils down to whatever works for an individual. Like if you know what works for you, if you want to put all your energy into one thing and
Yeah.
you want to focus on it 100%. But if you're the type that you know that, okay, let me have a fallout plan in case I'm unable to attain this, then I can probably fall back on this. I mean, that also is welcomed. The onus is on everyone to really understand themselves and know exactly what works for them. And I appreciate that response from you. Okay, so coming to the US, I mean, we're taking a step down now. So there's so many schools in the US. I don't want to say about 300,000 colleges. I mean, as you can see, in Louisiana alone, they have more than 100 colleges.
Yeah.
That's just one state out of 50 states. So if you take an
Mhm.
average of, I mean, so so my question is, how did you come about the University of Louisiana at Lafayette? I mean, I'm not sure it is one of those schools you will first find out when you're looking for schools in other countries. Yeah, so how did you come about this prestigious university?
Okay, once I narrowed down to one country, I started looking for different universities. I was actually going through their um, application pages, and I was looking for the admission requirements, and that's how actually I choose the particular universities that I applied. I think I applied to a few universities, and I narrowed those universities down based on my profile. So the rule is you should not always select all the highly ranked universities, no matter how good your profile is, because you can always denied admission by those universities because they are really prestigious universities, and the competition is always great there. So yeah, I think if if somebody plans to go for the higher education in the US, he should just have a good profile first. For example, the GRE, the TOEFL, and the other things. For example, recommendation letters, SOPs, publications, and based on those profile, an applicant should narrow the universities down and then go ahead and apply and see what happens.
So is that how you got to know about UL, that I'm talking about, University of Louisiana at Lafayette, how did you know about the school itself? Like, was it you were just searching randomly, or did you know anybody here? I'm going to share my own story about it anyways, but
Yeah, sure.
just to get from you first, did you know anyone from here who probably told you about it, or were you just searching and you just came about? So how did you know about the UL?
Okay, no, actually, no, I didn't know anybody in here at the time I applied. So what I did is that actually when I narrowed down to one country, I actually went through the wiki page and find out all the universities this country has and
Wow.
try to see which university fits me or best serve my intentions or my purpose. So that's how I get to know about UL. I actually knew, I don't say I knew all of the universities in here, but I knew most of them. So,
So that's to say you actually did your homework, which is like
yeah,
a
in a way,
lesson
yeah.
for people who are also listening to us. Like, a lot of people just want people to do everything for them. Like, they want to choose school, they're going to talk to you. They want to choose country, they're going to talk to you. They want to write exam. I mean, you should take responsibility,
Yeah,
sit down and
absolutely.
do the rigorous searches, look for schools, look for their requirements, um, see which ones your profile matches, and which one you are not up to, and a whole lot of that. So I think that's a very good lesson I can grab from what you just said. So if you're listening to us, you know that you need to put in the work. You really need to go extra mile to check out these schools, check out their pages, see what their requirements are, and all of that. So,
I also want to add that I knew that US is a very big country
mhm.
and different part of it has different types of weather. So I knew that the north side of US has a lot of snowing going on during the winter season, and the south side doesn't have so. But the southern part of the United States, the weather of southern part of the United States is very close to the weather we have in my country. So it was another point for me to choose this place because I didn't want to go for a place where the temperature get down below
Below
zero
zero.
in yeah, that's right.
You don't want to freeze.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I understand. I understand. I went to my wife
I
and I
I
went
I
to
I think I think the situation was pretty similar in your case as well because I think
exactly
your country has pretty similar weather,
weather.
right?
Yeah,
Weather
exactly,
conditions. Yeah.
exactly. I think it was January this year. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think so. Maybe January this year or last year. I really can't pick now. We went to New York. We went to New
Yeah, I
York.
know. Yeah.
We went to Washington, and I'm telling you, that was a very bad time to visit those places. Like, we
Yeah.
were literally crying because our fingers were frozen. We couldn't press phones. Nothing. We had to run back to train station and a whole lot of that. So I 100% agree with you that if you want to choose schools, you also want to look at the weather um, of, I mean, people when they want to come, they actually don't care. It is when they come
Yeah.
that the reality
That's right.
sets in. But if you have this kind of information beforehand, I think it will really help you in navigating what kind of locations to choose so that you don't come and you have some other problems compounding with academic problems. Another thing that is also good is the food here. You see that Louisiana, especially Lafayette, where we are, they have very good food.
Hmm.
So, I mean, so if you have this kind of information, I'm not sure, but maybe there's some places, if you go in the US, you probably wouldn't be able to eat their local food, or you wouldn't be able to blend in very well into their culture. This place is very, very different. And that drives me into saying why I chose Lafayette. University of Louisiana at Lafayette. I also did my own background checks too. So I used to come to the US, like I'll visit. My wife was here, so I'll come, I'll visit. When it was time for me to come to grad school, um, I visited a number of schools, and UL was one of those schools. And my spirit just clinged to the school. I knew this is the right place for me. I checked with the computer science department. I see that they are really doing amazing stuff. A lot of innovation has also come up from this part. And also, Lafayette is also recognized as the Southern Bay, like the same way you have San Francisco Bay, Silicon Valley. Here is considered as the Silicon Valley of the South. So I feel, oh, there's going to be a lot of opportunities here. And so let me give it a shot. So it's one of the reasons I ended up in the US. So I think we have pretty so much in common. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think we have just discussed a very important fact. I
Mm-hmm.
think the people were or the prospective graduate students should always do their homework and consider the
Mm-hmm.
places and learn about it or those as much as possible because they're gonna come and live there for a very long time. 2 years is a very long time, so you should do your homework well. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so some of these things, as they also come up into our mind, we can always say them. But so we go down the lane. Like you mentioned the other time, different schools with different requirements. So can you remember slightly, because it's been a long time now. Um, oh,
Um,
no,
yeah.
just yeah, you can just move your chair. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It was all sense of thanks. Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
Hey.
Okay. It's gonna be
Uh,
tough for them.
just I'm gonna
No, that's
take a
okay.
while so
Okay.
that the lights are all on. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I think they're back. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
also back.
You're welcome back.
Yeah.
That was a short
Thanks.
break. Okay, yeah. So the next thing would be like, um, can you remember what the requirements for the, let's say, master's degree in computer science at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, the requirements were when you were trying to apply? And I'm asking this because it's very, very important. I don't know what kind of scale you used in Bangladesh, but like in my school where I finished from, we're using a 7.0 scale. So if you finished with a 6.0 over 7, which is a first class in my country, you have to be able to convert it back to 4.0 scale. So you need to consider a lot of that. So maybe here they use 3.0 as a requirement. You need to be able to convert your own schools scale in your country to the same thing they are using here in the school. And another thing is they probably have GRE cutoff, which is different in other schools, TOEFL or high ELTS. So what were the requirements when you were trying to apply? The reason I'm saying this again is for those people who will be watching, so that they kind of have an idea of things to start to put together to set them on their own for graduate admission. Can you remember?
Yeah, so as far as I can remember, at the time when I applied to this university, the CGPA requirement for this university is 3, and I think most of the universities in here in the US has CGPA requirement of 3. But only the highly ranked universities, for example, the Stanford, Harvard, MIT, has requirement of, I mean, they actually require 3.75, and I think most of the mid-rank universities actually require 3.5 or something. Yeah, and I think there is no minimum for the GRE. The prospective student, the prospective student should try to score as much as possible in GRE because scoring high in GRE always helps in getting admission in the prestigious institutions. Yeah. So uh, in my university or in my program, I think the requirement was like 305 or something.
Okay.
I think it was a requirement. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So you had the GRE requirement, the TOEFL or high ELTS requirement, recommendation, um, letters from probably professors from your school, your statement of purpose. Yeah, you had all of those things. So what was
Yeah.
the admission process like? And this is important because as simple as it looks, a lot of people still get it mixed up. Sometimes you don't want to put the cart before the horse. So you want to make sure that you have things in right order. So can you remember what the admission process for you then was? How did you go about it and till you get your admission letter?
Uh, the thing is, the higher education in the US is very costly. And that's why the graduate student, he usually look for support for their studies in here. So in order to get that support, the prospective student should try to obtain support, and they should what they should do is to go to the profiles of the faculties to their respective or intended program and try to find out whether that professor has any ongoing projects. So if the professors has ongoing projects, then there are a pretty high chance that those professors has funding or supported projects so that they can take students to work on their projects, and they will pay those students out, and that will cover the all the expenses of their studies in here. So I think they should go and search the profile of the prospective or the professors, especially I mean they shouldn't go to the profile without any plan. They should have a specific plan. They should first figure out what their interest is, on which projects they want to work on. For example, in computer science, there are several fields for research. For example, data science, machine learning, or device pairing, or many things. So they should actually decide which areas to work on, or in which areas they have the most interest in, and then they should go to the profiles of the respective faculty members and find out what their research interest is. If both of their research interests align, then they should go ahead and search for the current and ongoing projects of that faculty member. If they think that this is the project really want to the student really want to work on, then he should go ahead and email that professor that I have experience working on similar things, and I can be able to work on your project, and they can shoot an email to that faculty member and see what the professor replies.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that response actually answered very clearly how aspiring graduate students can have access to funding. But funding is very critical when it comes to studying in maybe in any foreign country, and especially in the US. And basically, still going to dwell on that so that we get one or two things clear. For you personally, how did you go about it? You are in master's program, right? I know that for many PhD students, before they come here, they would have secured funding given the nature of their program. But for master students, sometimes you can secure one before you leave your home country. Sometimes you have to come before you hustle it out, before you chase faculty and then find one if you eventually get. But for you, um, did you um, have funding before you left? And this is just to be able to help people out there. What were the steps you took to secure one if you did? If you did not, if it was when you came here that you got your funding, what was the step or what were the steps that you took so that someone making decision who probably did not get funding in their home country will probably not sit down. They can take a bold step, have their own money, and then come, then also look for funding. So I would love for you to clarify those two hands.
Yeah, I was actually able to obtain assistantship before coming here in the US.
Okay.
And but I think it would be best if you can visit the US and visit the respective labs, because that way you will actually really know what that professor actually do or researches on.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have that feel, and you can decide whether you really want to work on this or not. And yeah, and the professor will also get the chance to observe you whether you really worth it or not. So yeah, I'd say if possible, always visit the respective country that you're intended to go and visit the respective labs. Yeah.
Awesome. Just to kind of chip in for me personally, um, I did. I didn't have funding before coming to the US, or before starting my graduate program. But then funding came along. Um, it's just important to also mention that most funding are usually not domiciled in the department. You can also get funding from maybe other departments. You can get from some other business units where you can put your skill to use. So maybe if you're a software developer and maybe there's a business unit that is attached to the school, and they are looking for to use your skills. So in an exchange for your skill, they can decide to fund your master's program, which is something similar to what I'm doing. Although I'm not a software developer where I work, but they are using my skills that I have, and they are funding my master's program. So I am not a graduate teaching assistant. I'm a graduate assistant, so with a business unit. So just to let people know that there are a couple of different options available. I mean, the decision is solely theirs. They have to take the decision themselves. If you don't have the money, I had the money to come and start my master's program. So if you don't have the money, you don't want to come. I'm not even sure the embassy will give you visa if you cannot prove, if you don't have the proof of financial support from your home country. I did have the proof, and I came here and I started out, and eventually the funding came along. So just to let people know that there are different options available when they are pursuing their graduate program in terms of funding. And just like what you said, it is important to do your background checks.
That's right.
You have to go to the website of the school you are intending to go, check out the faculty members, check out their interest, their research, what they are working on, see how those things align with your own, then come up with like a write-up that kind of that you can present to them, that you can send to them, that is really going to be striking, that they will be willing to work with you. So, and I think that is how it is. There's no two way about it. You're going to send email to some people, they will not respond. Don't give up. You still keep sending them an email. Don't bug them. You can give some space, like maybe once every fortnight or maybe once in a month, send to different professors. Just keep at it, and then one of them will respond, and it's going to end in testimony. So thank you for um, shedding light in that area, especially that funding, because funding is very, very critical, especially when it comes to
Yeah,
schooling
absolutely.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Busa, you just just reveal some important information. Yeah, you were absolutely correct to say that it's really difficult to get the visa without if you don't show proper proof of your of financial support for your education. Because in the case of my country, if you fail to show the financial proof, then you are denied visa.
Mm.
So it's really important to have the financial support or assistantships before you go ahead and apply for the visa. So yeah, but I talked about visiting the lab because it'll always great to have the feel of what the professor actually works on. So in that case, you might have to leave with a tourist or visit visa. So that's another option if you really want to visit the labs. Yeah.
That might be a little bit difficult, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, not impossible.
If
Yeah.
you have something that can bring you here as a visitor,
Mhm.
and you have the proof, you have to be able to prove to the embassy, the VO interviewing you, that you are coming back to your home country. So if you're able to prove the ties and they
Ye-
give you a visiting visa, then you might be able to come and check out some schools and labs. In my own case, my wife was here,
mhm.
so I could come on an F2 visa, which is a dependent visa. So some people, maybe because of the nature of their work, I have some colleagues from my previous company. They've visited the US about 2 times. So during those times, they took us some time out to visit some schools. So, if you have that opportunity, I think that's a very good one. So if you have opportunity to visit the US, you can use that. You can use the opportunity to go to different schools and check them out. But if you don't have opportunity, we are in a digital age. Take out your computer, go
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
their website, check rigorously. Everything you're going to see here on campus is the same thing you're going to see on their website. And that's one good thing about these developed countries. So everything is pretty much on the internet. You will see everything. The only difference is you will not be here physically. And even if a professor is interested in you, they're probably going to ask you for a Skype meeting, like a Skype call, which I know some of my friends who are planning to come now, they are doing back in Nigeria. So someone like a professor in one country already sent a Skype call meeting with one of my guys. So that's very possible. So if you don't have the money to come on a visit, don't bother. Just go to the website and figure out what you can do with the information there. Thank you so much, Nabil, for pointing that out.
So,
Okay.
Musa, I'd like you to reveal some more information about how to obtain the graduate assistantships. For example, that particular type of graduate assistantship that you talked about, not the teaching or research assistantship, but the kind of graduate assistantship that you currently hold. So, can you please share with the others of how you obtain those kind of graduate assistantships?
Absolutely, because I actually wanted us to do it very well on funding because it is very critical to
Yeah.
someone's success when it comes to grad school, especially in the US, where tuition is about $14,000 per semester.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Okay, yeah. So um, when we're talking about funding is not free money.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
not free. You're going to work for it and you're going to work your butt off, if I can say that. Like, so we have graduate research assistants, like Nabil earlier said. So these are people who are working with different professors on a particular project, on a particular research. So you probably have some targets, like you have to publish papers, you have to come up with an idea. You have to make publications and stuff like that. So that's research. Then there's graduate teaching assistant positions. So in most cases, these are funded by the department. So the department is going to assign you to different professors. So basically what you do is you grade lower level, like bachelor students, you grade their scripts, and you grade labs, you grade exams, tests, and all of that. So you are more like let me use the word in quotes, don't let them come and take me, assistant lecturer. So, but what you do basically is you just grade students' scripts. Yeah. So, but it's also very demanding, because that means you have to read, you have to understand the subject you're grading at a very short period of time. So, but in that case, it's the department that is hiring you and they are paying you. Then the third category is the graduate assistant. This is not teaching, this is not research, which
Busayo,
is,
I'd like to add that uh, in the case of the graduate teaching assistants, they also need to be involved in research, although they are paid by the department, but they also need to be involved in the research works under a supervisor. So although we are just teaching assistants, we also do the double duty.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just like when you are working in an office and they say, okay, you are a business analyst. As a business analyst, sometimes you also have to attend to other things. So I agree. But primarily, if you're a research assistant, the funding is basically coming from the professor.
yeah,
So
that's right.
your duties, your allegiance is to the professor, and he also has objectives, because it is those it is those projects that they use to also seek funding. So you have to be very, very active. They want to see that you're going to be very productive and you're going to kind of help them too. So it's like symbiotic relationship. And like you said, when it comes to
Absolutely.
teaching assistants, I mean, primarily you're supposed to grade, you're supposed to mark and all of that. But I mean, you are attached to a professor. This is a professor who also has, they will use you. So you probably have to be, and it is for your own good, which is also good anyway. So, I mean, it's a win-win. You also learn, because when you do research with them, I mean, you're going to expand your horizon. So you're going to be involved in different labs and research activities, which is good anyways. The category where I fall is graduate assistant, pure graduate assistant, just GS, not teaching or not research. So, and people need to know that these opportunities also exist. So there are some business units who are under the university. So every university you visit, they will have some external labs, they will have some external business units, let me just use the word. So, and they are under the school, but they are independent bodies, but under the school. So they use like school's portal, like for their emails, their network, all those resources, just like they're sharing resources with the school, but they manage their own thing. They have external customers who are not school staff. So what you do in those cases is you have to be able to find them. Then you approach them and you ask if they have opening for graduate assistants. It is not every business in that locality that does that. You have to be able to find out which business units are under the umbrella of the school, so that you're going to be a graduate assistant under the school, but with those business units. I mean, if you're able to get, as a student, you are not allowed to work outside the school. Your visa does not allow you to work. You can only work for 20 hours as a graduate assistant, and it has to be within the school. So this is where these business units are very, very good. They come in handy. If they have been outside the school, that they don't have anything with the school, someone like me, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So, but as I am today, I'm also a graduate assistant under them. So my paperwork passes through the school to them. Um, so there are two ways, like I said. You probably have to look out for such opportunities and approach them and talk to them. And if they find you worthy, they're going to hire you. Another way is these people also, they publish their vacancies. the vacant positions that they have, they publish it on the schools, Facebook pages, Instagram pages, on different job boards and student union and your faculty notice boards and all of that. So you have to just watch out. So for me personally, the advert was placed on the school's Facebook page, and one of my friends saw it, and she sent it to me. So she sent it to me, and I was preparing for a test when she sent it to me, and right there I applied. I was called for an interview, and I got it. So just for people to know that these opportunities exist. I mean, there are a whole bunch of other ones too, like scholarships. Like you can also get scholarships from your home country, maybe government-funded scholarships. Um, then you can get partial scholarship too from the school. I mean, but most often than not, you have to get full scholarships from your country, or you get an assistantship, as we call it here, funding from the school. So, and that's how it is. It's crazy, but it's pretty straightforward too. Yeah. So, but it's very critical to one's success. Would you want to add any other thing to the funding aspect? Because that's one of the most critical things. Yeah.
I think we have covered pretty much of that. So I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. So,
You did a great job in talking about the financial support. Yeah.
okay, thank you so much. We have just about two more questions. So very quickly, if you look at the education here and
Mhm.
back at home, so can you make some comparison? So what would you say? Do you think the education here is really worth the while? If you were to pay this money, the tuition from your, as they call it, out of pocket, would you consider it like a wise investment? So if I should ask you that question.
Yeah, I think it'll really pay off if you just use your money to get the education from here, because as I've already said that the education in the United States is recognized all over the world. So it's
Absolutely.
always better to invest your money in here rather than in back in my country, because the first language in my country is not English. So first of all, you know English. I talk about the importance of English everywhere, because it's really important to know English well, because all the informations and everything you need to know is will always be available in English, but not
Yeah.
in any other country, any other languages. So it's always important to learn English well. Then
Mm,
if you know it well, then you have access to all the informations of the world.
mm,
So it's
mm,
always important. And comparing the education system of my country with the one with the one here in the U.S., I wouldn't say that there is a lot of differences, but I think that the educational system here is very competitive, and you already know it. We went through a lot of pressures when the semester goes on. It's the summer, that's why we get some lectures, and that's
mhm,
all.
mm.
And we have a lot of coursework, a lot of projects, quizzes, everything to go through. And we have
Absolutely.
to, and particularly as assistants, we have to do really well, because it's another important thing that we should mention, because if your grade point average falls below a certain level, then you lose it.
You lose your funding. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's so they should always know it all. It's not the, I mean, just getting the opportunity to study in the United States doesn't mean the end of the journey. It's just
Mhm.
the start of the journey. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so once you are here, your journey just starts.
Mm,
So there will be many ups and downs, and you have to work really hard to get the degree that you want or desire. So you have to work very, very hard. You have to, for example, Busa, you're married, so things would could be a little easier for your case, but
It's
most of the
not.
students are, it could be the other way as well, because it
Yeah.
could even be more hard than us. But I think our lives are also pretty hard and difficult because we have to cook for ourselves, we have to do all the things for ourselves, we have to go to the market, buy
Mhm.
the or do the groceries for ourselves. We have to go to the offices, for example, to the banks, to different offices, for example, to the SSM office and everything, all
Mhm.
by ourselves. But back in our country, when we in our country, we used to live with our families all together. So
Mhm.
there are other family members who can help me with my stuffs. But in
Absolutely.
here, you have to do everything
All by
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah, all by yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you're, I am currently, I mean, this information is for you. If you are planning to go for the higher education, just try to get a feel of how the lives in here, because once you're in here, you are in here.
Mhm.
I mean, there will not be any opportunity for you to go back because you probably you have already spent a lot of money
Mhm.
if you're in here
Mhm.
or before coming in here. So you have to maybe you have to pay back those money. So you have to get the feel first of what it would be like to go for the higher education in the United States. If you think that you really want to do it, then you have to go for it. Otherwise, I think you should think twice before going for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what you just said, would you consider that as the graduate life year, or you would probably have like, because I was meaning to ask you about what does it look like to kind of live here as a foreign student? Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of communities to bring us to speed. You probably have some organizations from your country. I have from my country. We have International Student Council. There are so many other organizations like that too in other schools to kind of bring international students. Yeah. To kind
Yeah.
of bring international students up to speed. I mean, you see a lot of cultural differences, like religion differences. I mean, so what would you consider generally what graduate life is here? So, what has been your experience before I ask the last question?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer your questions just after taking a walk so that the lights are all on again.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, it's back. So yeah, in our case, we have one of the student associations here, and all the students from the Bangladesh has to be a member of it. They're automatically a member once they're here. So uh, the thing that I love most about the higher education in here is that I'm a social person and I meet a lot. I love to meet new people
Awesome.
and yeah,
Boom.
all over the world. So yeah, the thing I love most about the graduate studies in here is that I can meet a lot of people from
Yeah,
around the world.
different people from different
Yeah.
backgrounds. Yeah.
So for me, this is the most important. This is one of the most important reasons, and for others, it could be the other thing as well. For example, the research works, the facilities they will get in here, the research facilities, the things that those students will get to learn from here. That would be the most important thing for their cases. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very spot on. That's very spot on. And I think, like I said, we actually share a lot of things in common. Like um, sometimes I can be an introvert, but I still like to meet people, talk to people, like meet new friends, especially um, people with great minds. Yeah, people who are very curious, who are very sound. So I like to meet them and do a lot of things together. Amazing, amazing things. Okay, so on a last note, I know we've talked about a lot of things, our personal life a little bit, our academic background, how we landed here as a computer science master student, how we got funding and all of that. But at the same time, there's always one trick, one tip, one piece of advice you just want to give to someone. For me, sometimes I just like to tell people that, man, whatever you've put your mind to do, just go all out to achieve it. As long as you've identified that this thing is right for me. I mean, that's what I consider like one of the most critical things, for you to be able to actually say, yes, this thing is what I want to do. But once you're able to understand your life's purpose and where you are and where you want to be and things you need to do to move from where you are to where you want to be, then go for it. There's going to be a lot of challenges. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. I mean, you're going to have a lot of setbacks. But if you already have those things at the back of your mind, they are going to even serve as motivation for you to get to where you want to get to. For instance, when I came in, I didn't have fun then. It was very depressing, but I kept pushing and eventually it came. You see, sometimes your car will break down for like 3 months. You're out of car. And it is difficult to move around without mobility, without vehicle. So, I mean, those things can bring some depression. But once you understand where you are going, you know that these are just stumbling blocks that you need to turn to stepping stone, stepping blocks. You see, so that is usually my tip for people: go all out for whatever you believe in. So what would be your tip and advice for any aspiring graduate out there? You see, a lot of people are scared. They don't know where to start. They don't want to write GRE. They don't want to write TOEFL. I'm telling you from experience, they just want to come. So what would you advise anybody out there who is willing to also take on the adventure of grad school, having realized that that is what they need at the moment?
Yeah, I think my advice would be the same as yours. Just listen to your mind, what you actually want or what your mind actually wants you to do. But I think after being certain about your intentions, you should plan it step by step. For example, you should properly do your homework. Yes, that's absolutely correct that GRE is a worldwide fair, but it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. Maths there, the maths appears on the GRE are not that difficult. They're, I would say most of them are pretty easy, and the verbal portion is a little difficult, but with practice you can get over it as well. And yeah, I think you should just do your homework properly. And the thing I want to add with your advice is that be persistent. Persistence is the key. If you're persistent to your goal, you'll surely to achieve your goal one day. It might take you a little more than others, but you will one day definitely be able to achieve your goal. And that's my advice to you all.
That is wow. In fact, I feel like this session should not stop. Honestly, I have been so equipped, so informed, and you're so eloquent, so fluent, and so straight to the point. Thank you so much for all you said, for all your pieces of advice for our folks out there. We really appreciate your time. And I mean, it's not supposed to be like a one-off thing. Maybe we might also come later to ask to talk to you again. Maybe you find something very interesting you want to share with our audience. So thank you so much, Nabil. This is going to be like the closing for this episode. We'll be releasing this episode to our audience maybe like in the next few days, so that they can have access to this very robust and resourceful information. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Busal. Thank you all, and best of luck for your future endeavor.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Go Cajuns. All right. Thank you. Bye. Yeah.